So I need to unmute myself. We're going to get started with our course today. So welcome to Sacred Account Saturday. My name is Jerry Fetta. I'm the owner, founder, and CEO of Wealth Dynamics. And we do these courses every Saturday to talk about finances, right? How do we build wealth? How do we achieve financial independence? And what are the actual strategies in education? So much of this comes down to education, guys. It's like you can't succeed with something that we don't understand. And we were never taught about money. And when we do get taught about money, it's not actually education, it's marketing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. So a little bit about my background. If you're just tuning in for the first time, you don't yet know who I am. Again, I'm the owner and founder of the brand Wealth Dynamics. And I've been in the financial world since I was 18 years old. Okay. So at the age of 18, I got my licenses. I started studying to become a financial advisor. And I did that for a number of years in what I consider to be the retail financial world. Retail, think about shopping, right? When you're retail, you're what? You're at the mall, you're paying full price. Usually the retail thing is not the best deal, even though it's the one that's marketed the most. And so there's a part of the financial world that's like that, where it's a lot of marketing, a lot of high cost that's going to be put on the consumer. And it's something that doesn't actually, save you money. You're often buying something you could get cheaper somewhere else, right? So I was in that retail financial world. And so as I started studying, I started learning that a lot of these strategies are not actually used by the top 1%, right? When you study the wealthy, you study the top 1%, they're not using the mutual fund. They're not using the 401k. They're not keeping their money in a bank account, right? They're doing other stuff. And when I started learning about, okay, well, what is this other stuff? I was like, okay, this is not what I was taught as a financial advisor. Right. So I actually went and I studied, I got licenses, right? I learned about like what you're supposed to do to become wealthy based on what, the government teaches and what Wall Street teaches and the banking industry teaches. So if I went and I took all of those state and federal exams, where was my financial literacy compared to the average person who never learns about money, not even in school? Way up there. And I'm telling you that at that level of financial education, I still had it wrong. Right. And so this is something that is, it's hard to swallow. It's like one of these things where you're like, I don't know, when we would ever learn this stuff. But if I spent all this time and energy getting educated on finances and I still had the wrong information, where's everyone else at? Right. What's the average person running into? Right. So what I've devoted the last, 12 years of my life to, and will continue to devote the rest of my life to, is sharing the truth about money with everyone that I possibly can. Right. And so today we're going to talk about, well, what is the truth about money? Okay. And I want to bring you into, before we dive into this, a couple of rules that I like to cover. The first thing is, if you're watching today, I want you to have a purpose for being here. Anything you get involved in, anything you try and learn, any event you attend, webinar, podcast, it doesn't matter. If you don't have a reason for being there, like a goal that you're trying to accomplish, you're not going to be able to do it. Right? Like think about if you didn't do well in school, how many of you knew why you were in school other than your parents told you were supposed to? Okay. I was in that boat. I was like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm supposed to be learning from this. Right. So what happens is we don't have a use for it. So we don't pay attention. We don't think about it. We don't try and apply what we're learning. We don't look at, where does this fit into my life? Because we're just receiving information. So you need to have that purpose. The other thing is I want you to remove the idea that money is complicated and it can't be learned about. Okay, that's been pushed on us by financial institutions, and the purpose of it is so that we feel like we need them in our lives. Right? If I make you feel overwhelmed and I make you feel unintelligent, you're more likely to ask for help from someone that seems to be the expert. So what did the financial world do? They made money seem very, very complicated, and they made themselves seem very, very sophisticated. Supply and demand. You create the demand by first over confusing the subject. Then you supply it with a solution that's postured and marketed to look like it's, the solution for the problem, but the problem was created by the guys offering the solution. Anytime, I'm going to give you this as a tip, anytime you're having an offer to solve a problem and the guys that are solving the problems are the same ones that created it, usually that's not a good sign. Right? It's like going to a mechanic shop where they break a few things on your car just so when you leave in 3 or 4 weeks, your car breaks down again and you've got to come back. That's not what you want happening with your finances, right? So I want you to have the idea that, okay, I can learn about this. It's not overcomplicated. It's not impossible. It can be learned. I'm going to learn it. And then the other thing is too, getting over the idea that we know it all already. Unless you're already a top 1%er, there's still something you can learn about on this webinar today. Right now, I get it. If you're already in the top 1%, which then I would ask the question, what are you doing on this webinar at 1 p.m. on a Saturday? Right? There's still something to learn. And we have this barrier. We tend to have this barrier with learning of, I've seen this already. I've heard this already. I've already been taught this. I already know this. Knowledge and results are not the same thing. Okay, like knowledge precedes results. So if I have true knowledge, it should lead to results in my life. Therefore, if I don't have results in my life, I don't have knowledge. I might have heard information, right? I might be able to regurgitate, the same sound and voice patterns of what somebody told me about a subject before. So it sounds like I know what I'm talking about, but that's not knowledge. That's just the ability to repeat what I've been told before. See, this is another problem with schools. We were taught in schools, to get good grades. You're just basically a parrot. The teacher tells you to say blah, and you can say blah, and you can regurgitate the information back. Therefore, you must know it. There's no measure of like, are you successful in that area? Okay, so it's a hard pill to swallow, but for me, I had to really look at if I'm not winning with an area, I do factually lack knowledge in that area to the degree that I'm not succeeding with the information that I think I know. Right? So those are a couple of things. The other thing I want to cover with you. So there's two things I want to go over with you. The first one is, if you're on the webinar today, whether you're a client or not, I want to offer you a free consultation with Brianna on my team. Bree Shaw is one of our endorsed wealth mentors. And so her goal and purpose is actually to connect and develop a one-on-one relationship with you. And so, if you're on the call and you're trying to get more information, or maybe you're already a client, or maybe, you're just checking this out and you don't really know why you're here. Someone invited you, or you found us on social media and you're trying to figure out what is this. I want to give you that opportunity to connect with Bree. Okay. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you a one-on-one call with an expert to get that. Okay. What are you trying to do? What problems are you trying to solve? What are your goals, and how do we help you get there? Right. And so by doing that, you're going to be able to take next steps with us. It's very hard to, kind of come up with, okay, what do I do? What's the next step? Am I doing this correctly? Right. And that's why when we work through our program with clients, we call it the blueprint to financial freedom. Right. Most people, when you build a house, you're hoping that that house is being built with a blueprint of some sort. Right. And that blueprint typically is not something you're going to do by yourself. Okay, very few times are you going to be like, I came up with a blueprint. I'm now going to be the guy that swings the hammer and does all the work, right? No, you're going to look at, okay, I need to work with someone now. I need somebody that's an expert in building a home, and they're going to do the blueprints. And basically, that's going to be something that they're going to walk me through, and I'm going to make sure that they're doing a good job. Right. So the blueprint book is the next thing I want to give you. So I'm going to share my screen here. I want to share with you guys what the book is. If you're not a client yet, one of the offers that I'd like to give you today for free is a copy of my book. Okay. So this is my book. It's called Blueprint to Financial Freedom. And if you go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo, you can grab a free copy of this book. Okay, and we're going to cover one of the concepts in this book today. We're not going to be able to cover everything, but we will get through, some stuff today that's life-changing if you really grasp what I'm going to cover with you guys. This changed my life. It's changed the lives of countless clients we've worked with. It's a strategy that's been around for 200 years now. It's being used by the top 1% banks. We're going to go over something today that if you really get this, it becomes kind of the entire tool that your financial world is centered around. And it's a concept, right? And so I'm going to show you what this concept is today. But if you don't take further action, meaning you don't get the book or you don't schedule a call, then it's kind of all for nothing. And I don't want that for you. So if you're on the webinar today, my call to action for you is, at the point that this makes sense, you either buy the book or you schedule a call with Brianna, or you do both, right? Now, if you're already a client, my goal is to service you. I want to give you education today. I want to give you a great experience. I want to give you information that reinforces what you're learning in your financial progress, and also offer you that call with Brianna so that you can get the service you need as well. Okay. So that's kind of everything I like to cover from the top. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and I have a presentation that I want to go over with you today. And it looks like our Facebook connection is not working today. This is super weird. I want to go over a presentation that I have for you guys today. And this is really something that, my team has worked hard on putting together, because the information we're going to cover is going to become very important in the next coming months. Okay, we're in a world of, interesting times with banks and financial institutions. And so we just had, one of the things we're going to talk about today is the Apple Card. We just had Apple Card release their new savings plan, right? And what I said at the very beginning of this webinar is that when we get financial education, it actually tends to just be marketing, right? It's just institutions marketing to us to sell more of their products and services to us. So Apple, a very reputable brand, they came out with the Apple credit card, they came out with Apple Pay, they came out with, now the Apple savings plan. So these are all we look at these as consumers and we look at, okay, this is a financial tool, right? And there's some truth to that, but we have to really understand what is the difference between, an actual financial tool and a financial product, right? And a financial product is something that's created in order to sell to us as consumers, right? Where there's a difference between a consumer and a producer. The producer creates the product. They're the one that's making the money. The consumer is the one that is being pitched the product, right? And there's nothing wrong with being pitched on something or buying something, but when we don't know the difference, that's where we can get into trouble. Okay, so I want to give you just quickly, I want to just kind of give you a draw out on how this new Apple savings card is going to work. It's very exciting for people. There's a lot of marketing behind it. They're offering it as a high yield account where they're going to be giving you like 4%. So the first thing to realize is that 4% is what's called daily cash. So if you have an Apple credit card, you get rewards. Those rewards are called daily cash. Okay, your daily cash, you have the option of putting into the savings account. And if you put it into the savings account, Apple is saying that they'll pay you 4% on it, right? Now, it sounds really good, right? Think about this. You're like, wow, I can earn 4%. That's exciting. That's more than I'm getting at the bank. Okay, but it's not on deposits. It's on daily cash, meaning you first need to have a credit card with Apple. Second, you need to spend money on that credit card with Apple. Then you get cash back, right? Now, let me ask you this. Is cash back really cash back if I didn't get the cash back? I know that sounds confusing, but think about it. I'm gonna be Apple really quick. Okay, let's just use Crystal as an example. Crystal, I'm gonna give you a credit card. You're gonna spend the money on the credit card. You're gonna get rewards, cash back on the credit card. Rather than you taking that cash back and putting it into your sacred account or using it for bills or whatever, you can let me keep it. And I'll pay you 4% on it. But by letting me keep it, I actually saved. The cashback is usually what? Cashback rewards are usually like maybe 2, 3, 4% in the first place. So I had a liability to have to pay you 4%. I don't have to pay you the 4% anymore. Literally, it gets to stay on my balance sheet because it's going to go into my savings account. Sure, you're going to earn 4%, but now I can use the 4% that I was going to pay you to go invest and make more money. In order for Apple to pay you 4%, they're making more than that, right? So you're not really getting cash back anymore. Your daily cash is going into a savings account where you're not going to be able to use it in your life, and it's going to sit there and let Apple use it instead. Apple's getting into the banking world, right? So what I want to point out is that even Apple understands they need to become the bank, right? When are we going to catch on to this thing? So I'm going to share with you a concept today instead called the sacred account. The sacred account is a form of high early cash value dividend paying whole life insurance. And what it is called is not as important as what it does, right? What it does is it allows you to become your own bank. And in our lives, we're giving money to other banks right now, guys. Like I was doing some research on a book that I'm writing. And so one of the things I saw was with Silicon Valley Bank, their bank, they basically went under, right? And this was a couple of years or a couple of weeks back, their bank went under. Right. And so what that means is, the bank basically had, more people depositing money than they actually had money on hand. They lost those deposits because banks invest people's deposits to make profit. It's called fractional reserve banking. And so because of that, the depositors, 97% of the deposits were uninsured. Silicon Valley Bank went under, like they couldn't pay people back. The government's now bailing them out. But guys, here's the common thread. Who remembers 2008? Right? Banks were taking, people's money, investment money, and doing risky practices with mortgages. And when that game finally crashed, the banks failed. The government came in and bailed out the banks. When a government bails out a private corporation, they're using taxpayer dollars, which means we paid for their criminality with our tax money. And guess what happened is the banks actually used that bailout money to pay themselves bonuses. Okay, like that's as criminal as you can get, right? So basically what I'm looking at with Silicon Valley Bank, I'm doing my research and I see that right before they failed, guys, literally hours before they failed, the executives in the bank wired themselves bonuses. Like, just like my mind blew, like the level of criminality there. You did fractional reserve banking. You borrowed people's deposits and didn't tell them. Then you did a bunch of risky investing. Somehow you lost money. And then when you lost the money, you didn't even have the accounts insured. And then you had the audacity when 90% of their deposits weren't insured to then wire themselves bonus money right before the bank failed. Then ask the government for a bailout, which, by the way, the government's doing. Okay, when are we going to get out of that system? Signature Bank in New York, same thing. Right? Credit Suisse, the second largest bank in Switzerland, just went under. Right? If you've ever driven a car where you get a chip in the windshield and it starts to spiderweb, the spiderwebs are coming. And this is the time where you need to get out of the banking industry, out of the world of giving your money to other people's banks and become your own bank. Okay, so I'm going to share with you how to do that. Now, my vision and purpose with my company is to help millions of families, individuals, and entrepreneurs financially fund a life of abundance and prosperity in all dynamics. And I believe that part of that is you do need to become your own bank. In order to win with finances, you need to become your own bank, right? So, we're working on right now building the largest financial services company in the history of in the US. We're going to be focusing on getting 250,000 licensed ambassadors across North America, Canada, and Puerto Rico. Okay, North America, including the United States and Canada. But between North America and Puerto Rico, and the reason why is because people need this concept. Okay, those of you that are clients, I want you to think about when you talk to your friends, when you talk to your family, how many of them are educated on why they should give their money to Wall Street and why they should give their money to banks? Almost all of them. It's second nature. Like you're weird if you don't do it. That's how well marketed to they are. So in order to reverse that, we don't have the billions and billions of dollars to spend on propaganda and advertising. What we do have is word of mouth. And so we're looking to build with good people that get this concept and want to go share it with others. And when we get to the point of having 250,000 of those, we're going to have the same amount of influence that banks and Wall Street have to share a concept that actually works for people. Okay. Now, here's some of the stats here. We help with 4 main things. So if you're on the webinar, you're not yet a client, here are some of the 4 main things we can help you with. The first one is financial education. Okay, 53% of US adults experience financial anxiety. That's more than half of Americans. When they think about money, they experience anxiety. Okay, guys, money is right up there with gravity and oxygen. Like imagine like the way we treat money. What if we treated oxygen that way? 53% of people, when they think about breathing, they experience anxiety. What a terrifying way to live, right? Or eating. And the reason I'm relating it to these things is these are things that are a natural part of life that we're obligated to on a daily basis. Money falls in that category. We must earn income. We must pay bills. We must do stuff with finances. We were never taught to do any of those things. And that's why there's anxiety. Okay. 2 in 3 US families lack an emergency fund. Okay, it's 66% of people don't have a savings account built up for emergencies. 60% of non-retirees do not think their investments are on track. Okay, so, and then the other stat here is that only 33.4% of Americans have professional financial guidance. Okay, I want you to look at the numbers here. Okay, so 2 in 3 Americans do not have an emergency fund. Basically, 2 in 3 Americans don't think their retirement account is on track. If we look at the bottom stat, only 1/3 of Americans have professional financial guidance. That tells you 1 for 1. The people that have professional financial guidance have an emergency fund and they're on track with their investments. Right? 1/3 of them have it, meaning 2/3 of them have no advice, and just happens to be the correlation is also 2/3 of them don't have an emergency fund and aren't on track with their investments. So the importance of having the right financial education and the right financial guidance is a big deal. Now, we've been marketed to this idea of deferral lifestyle, okay? And this is up top as we go to work, we spend 40 to 60 hours per week working, serving the 40-year to life sentence, trading time for money. to hopefully retire one day and die before the money runs out. That's what most people are doing. That's not a life. Like think about that. We're working. Most people don't like their job. If they didn't have to work at that job, they wouldn't. I think people would still work. I think people like working, but a lot of people are like, yeah, this is not the thing I dream of doing. Okay, but they're doing it 40 to 60 hours a week, trading their time for money. They're going to do that for the next 40 years of their life to hopefully build up this retirement nest egg and be able to retire. And then the idea is that the money doesn't, that you don't outlive the money. So the idea is you die before the money runs out. Okay, when you hear it that way, it's kind of disgusting, right? It's like, I don't think I want to do that plan. Okay, the option number 2, and this is not the one that any of us are really taught, is financial independence. Okay, so we achieve passive income from investments that exceed savings, expenses, and taxes so that we can live life now and not be obligated to trade time for money. And so what we're going to talk about today is how do you get on track for financial independence? We're not going to talk about retirement planning. We're not going to talk about how you can build up your nest egg. We're going to talk about option number 2. Okay, now here are the statistics. This is from the Social Security Administration. You can check this out for yourself. 5 out of 100 people will be financially secure at retirement age. 5 out of 100, 95% of Americans are failing when it comes to their retirement, right? So we go back to this page, option number 1, deferral lifestyle, retirement. It's a bad plan. Like we just looked at that, spend 40 hours a week trading time for money, serving the 40-year life to life sentence so that hopefully one day you can retire and die before the money runs out. That doesn't sound appealing. And even if it was, only 5 out of 100 people are on track. Okay, when you have a bad plan that's being poorly executed and the result for people isn't something that they actually want when they look at where is this leading to, that's why they're not going to follow. Right? There's this whole like financial crisis on an individual level in America where we have, a financial, epidemic of credit card debt and student loans and paycheck to paycheck and this and that. Okay, I don't think that the solution and the problem goes very much further than people don't have a reason to do it. You're telling me, like, imagine going to the gym and I told you you're going to work hard every day and not eat the food you want. And in 40 years, you'll see a result. You'd be like, no, I'm good. Okay, I want to enjoy the next 40. Like I'm young now. I don't want to put a bunch of work in that I might not even be able to enjoy. I think that's what's happening. Just like I think that's the reason people don't save money. Why would I put money in an account that's paying me 0.10% interest? There's no incentive there. Right? So these are the things we've got to look at as the incentive. Now, a little bit about our team. So we're going to talk today about a 200-year-old proven concept delivered by the best team in the financial industry and partner with companies that have a 100 to 200-year track record of financial stability. So I'm going to go over this with you today. If you're brand new, the first thing you're going to say is, this is too good to be true. I'm going to show you it is true. Then you're going to say, okay, well, how come more people don't know about this? I'm going to show you the ones that do know about it. And then you're going to be like, okay, well, I need to know if it's a safe concept. And I'm showing you right now that this concept is actually safer than what you do with your money now. Your bank is not 100 to 200 years old. Okay. So the teams we work with, obviously we have Wealth Dynamics, my company, my team. We've also partnered with a group called the Money Multiplier Agency. Okay. The Money Multiplier Agency in the arena of what we're going to talk about today is the #1 agency in the country for this. Okay, like collectively, you have decades of years of experience of people that are actually practicing this exact concept and helping clients design this exact cool tool we're going to talk about today at the highest level. Okay, they're like our group with Money Multiplier, they're doing about 900 of these accounts per month. Per month, right? Now, the companies that we work with, the One America's, Lafayette Life, Guardian, Penn Mutual, Security Mutual, these are all life insurance companies. And so what I'm going to show you today is how to become your own bank with life insurance, rather than giving your money to the banking system, rather than doing the new Apple savings plan. And so again, 100 to 200 years old. Okay, these are companies that have all been around for 100 to 200 years, successfully doing this, never losing money, guaranteeing payouts, actually being profitable through, the Great Depression, the financial crises we've been through, and they haven't gone down. Do you know how many banks have failed in the last 20 or so years? Almost 600. Okay, do you know how many mutual insurance companies have failed? 0. Okay, these are the groups we work with. They've been around for longer than our banks have. A lot of them actually predate the IRS. Right? So again, it's like, where are you already putting your money? And what if there's a more established system in place? Okay, so before we dive into this, back to like the idea of thinking we know it all already. Okay, here's a couple questions that I want you to think about is, what is the definition of money versus currency? Right? Because we get set on these financial beliefs. We're like, oh, I've heard this talked about, or I saw this on a Netflix or a YouTube, or someone, my teacher told me this, or my parents told me that. And we never really inspect where the information came from. And we never really have, someone challenge our own thinking like, hey, are we actually on track? Okay, so I want you to ask yourself, do you know the difference between money and currency? Did you even know there was one? Okay, currency is a medium of exchange, like a US dollar. It's not a store of value. You earn it and spend it or transfer it. That's what you do with currency. Money is the store of value and a medium of exchange. I can use it to expend, but I also use it as a store of value. Do you know what happens if you use currency as money? You lose. That's what inflation is. You lose 9% of your value in a single year, right? Money doesn't do that. Money stores your value, right? The other one, we've all heard about compounding interest. Well, I want to ask you, which investments actually use compounding interest? Okay, you're probably thinking the retirement account. You're like, oh, well, when I put my money in a mutual fund or the S&P, like Tony Robbins says, it's compounding interest. As soon as you lose money, the compounding stops. The stock market is up and down and up and down and up and down. In order for something to truly compound, it can't lose. So all of this, compounding interest, who's ever heard this one, that Albert Einstein said that compounding interest was the eighth wonder of the world? He never said that. That was not what Albert Einstein said. That was what a company called Security Investment Company in the early 1920s said in a marketing campaign to get people to buy more of their own mutual funds. Albert Einstein never said that. Right? Are dollars worth more today, or are they worth more in the future? That's another one to think about. We save our money, we put it in the bank. Well, why are we saving it? Because we want to use it in the future. Good. Is it going to have more buying power in the future? No, it's actually going to buy less in the future. So why would we want to save it for the future? We should be using it now to invest, pay off debt, and actually make financial progress with it, rather than letting it sit there for the future when it's going to buy less and less things. Okay, taxes, right? Are those going to go up or down? Right now, they're trending up. Right? These are things people don't consider. What does that mean in my life? We've all heard, is it what you make or what you keep? But here's a question we've never really been asked. Is it what you keep or where you keep it? Right? Like, these should challenge your thinking. Okay, the other one that I want to bring up is the retirement account thing. How many of us have a retirement account? 401k, an IRA, a 403b, whatever it might be. Let me ask you, what do you actually know about that account? Other than it is a retirement account and that you can put some money into it and that it grows long-term and you might get a tax benefit, what else do you know? Do you know what your fees are? Do you know what the volatility is? Do you know the actual companies that are being invested in? Okay, do you know what you've made over the last 10, 15 years? Right? Like, these are all questions we should be asking. And most of us don't, because why? We trust the system, the marketing. Wall Street said it was good enough idea, loud enough time, like loud enough and as many times as it was necessary to get us to be programmed to do those things. Okay, so here's an example. So let's say, and I'm just gonna pick on a guest here. Let's use Lawrence as my example here. So Lawrence, let's say that you have $25,000, right? And so you have $25,000 in the bank. And you're talking to me and I'm the banker, and you're like, okay, I'm going to buy a car. I've got my 25,000. And I tell you, Lawrence, okay, rather than, and here's the loan on the bank is if you do a car loan, you're going to pay 6% interest. Right now, you've got one of these magical Apple savings accounts that pays you 4%. And so you're thinking, okay, I don't want to pay 6% interest. I don't want to go get a loan. So I'm going to pull my cash out of the bank because 4% is less than 6%. I'm going to use my 25,000 to go buy my new car, and I'm going to avoid paying 6% interest. And I tell you, Lawrence, wait. Let's look at this for a second. Okay. 25,000 at 6% is 60 months, right? That's a monthly payment of $483.32. $483.32 over the next 60 months means that you will pay for this car, principal and interest, $28,999. Okay, so that's what you're going to have here. Now, if you leave $25,000 in the bank at 4% for 60 months, your $25,000 in the same period would grow to $30,525. So even though you're paying 6% interest, you actually make more money by earning 4% than you would by avoiding paying the 6%. Right? And that just shows the paradigm shift. Most of us look at this and we're like, okay, 6% interest, that's more than 4. So I'd rather just spend my own cash because the interest is more expensive than what I make on my savings account. We don't account for the fact of something called amortization. Okay, 6% rate doesn't mean that that's actually what you're paying every month. It just means that that's over the life of that loan what the averages are, but you can see the clear math. We come out on top by using the money that we're going to borrow and leaving our savings, alone. Okay, we borrow the 6% instead, and we have a future value of $28,999, versus pulling the cash out. We would lose future value on this. You see what I mean? So here's something I want to give you guys, and something to keep in mind is that the wealthy don't think in percentages, they think in dollars. Okay, percentages are a trick. Banks use percentages to manipulate us into behavior, right? So when we look at this, okay, the percentage is smaller, but the dollar value is bigger. We don't pay our bills in percentages, right? Now, here's the reality of what we're going to talk about today is we talked about it's a whole life policy. Okay, so I want to talk about what that is, because I'm going to show you how you can become your own bank, right? So whole life insurance is something that lasts your whole life. It pays out a tax-free death benefit to whomever you choose. So it's a form of life insurance we're going to talk about, and we call it the sacred account. And so it has a tax-free savings account. Okay, so you can grow your money tax-free. That 4% in the bank we just looked at is not tax-free. We've got over 170-year track record. Like I said, this is about a 200-year-old concept. The average company has been doing this for about 170 years. When you put money into the system, it grows 3 to 5% tax-free. It's guaranteed to grow. It's guaranteed against loss. Okay, it's never lost money and only made money. Here's the difference. The banks tell you they're guaranteed to grow and guaranteed against losing. Okay, well, guess what? Silicon Valley Bank, their deposits were guaranteed against loss. Their company still lost the deposits. People still lost money, right? Now, the other difference here is that you're actually an equity partner with the insurance company and you share in all of their profits. You don't share in the profits of the bank, okay? So this is something I want to hit because it's from my experience and in my opinion, the safest place you can save money. So when I put money in this account, it's guaranteed against loss. It's guaranteed to grow. It's not taxable. There's no stock market volatility. There's no wealth management fees. Your money is actually protected from creditors and protected from lawsuits, and you have complete privacy. Okay, the bank says they're guaranteed against loss, but if you can lose money with Silicon Valley Bank, is it really guaranteed against loss? Okay, why do we think it's guaranteed against loss? When you have a bank account, what do they advertise? FDIC insurance, Federal Deposit Insurance Company. The FDIC is a government-based corporation that insures banking deposits. And so the way that this works is that when a bank has deposits, they pay a monthly premium to the FDIC, just like you would pay for your car insurance. And so if the FDIC, has to kick in, it's using the money it collects from its premiums to then pay out and fund the losses on the deposits. Sounds like a great concept. The banks, they're taking on the risk of the deposits. They pay the premiums. They make sure that people get reimbursed. But did you know that many years back, I think in the last decade or so, Congress was lobbied to make it to where banks don't actually pay those premiums right now. Currently, the banks don't have to pay the premiums. Where does the FDIC get its money? They borrow it from the US Treasury right now. So the whole idea of your money is insured, it's actually based on the Treasury. The FDIC borrows money from the Treasury and then uses that to make bank deposits solvent when banks make bad decisions with finances, which is 563 times in the last 20 years. Right? You're not actually insured. That's your taxpayer money. They're taking your deposits, loaning them out, losing your money, and then you're the one bailing them out, which then also increases your tax dollars in the future. Okay, so with banking, here's how it works. There's depositors, there's the bank, there are borrowers, there are shareholders. This is called the banking quadrant, right? And so when you're working with a bank, you're typically going to be a depositor, right? So you're a depositor, they deposit earned income. So this goes into the bank, right? Now, what does the bank do? The bank borrows against deposits to invest. This is called fractional reserve banking. This factually happens on your money right now while it's in the bank. Okay. Now, some of those investments are going to be borrowers. right? So the guy that's going to go get his loan for his new truck or the mortgage or the college loan or whatever it might be. And so the bank borrows against your deposit, loans it to this guy and charges him interest. And when that happens, the bank makes profit. And when the bank makes profit, it's the difference between what they're earning here. This is their earn, the plus, and then what they're spending here. What is their cost to borrow against the deposit? Right now, the average savings account pays about 0.34%. And so that's what their cost is, right? Let's say they do this on a mortgage, a fairly conservative loan. Right now, that's going to be maybe 4 to 5% that they're earning. So they're earning 4 to 5% on your money and paying you 0.34% and then keeping the difference. The difference is profit. That profit goes to the shareholders. Shareholders own the bank and they earn dividends based on bank profits. That's how the banking system works, right? And this is so simple. I just drew this. You could do this on a napkin with a 6-year-old and they would get it. Oh, so you're saying I put money in the bank. They don't actually keep my money there. They use it. They borrow against it. And then they take that money that they've borrowed against from me. They pay me 0.34% interest per year. And then they loan that money out to other people, or they invest that money to make profit. And they reinvest those profits and turn it into dividends that they pay out to the shareholders of the bank. That's it. That's how banking works, right? At a very simple level, we've just broken down how banking works. And so most of us don't know that, right? Now, what we talked about on the slide before was, okay, well, in this scenario, like you had 25,000 on a car loan at 6%, you had 25,000 in savings. And so the bank would have said, hey, instead of taking your money out where you're going to earn 4%, right? Keep it there and we'll loan you money at 6%. We talked about how the future value of that loan would actually be lesser than the loss you would have of spending your own 25,000. What we didn't talk about is, while they're paying you 4%, how are they affording to do so? And what if you could do both, right? Because the bank is doing both. They're paying you 4% and they're also extending you the car loan, right? So your money's in here at 25,000. The reason they can pay you 4% on your 25,000 is they make more than that. You see where I'm getting with this? And then on the car loan, the reason they can loan you that money at 6% is because that's interest now that they're making. That's profit to them. So what if you could be the bank and do both, where you have your own deposits, you're the depositor, and you're also the banker who issues the loans? And that's the system I'm going to show you today. Okay, now here's what happens is when you put money in a bank, the bank takes this money. And so let's say you deposit money in, right? They're going to loan it out on a mortgage at 7%. They're going to loan it out on a car at 6%. They're going to loan it out on home remodels, maybe at 9%. They might do debt consolidation loans at 12%. And meanwhile, they're paying you 4% interest on your money. So in all scenarios, they're making more than what they pay you, right? So 7 minus 4, they're making 3% right here. Okay, 8 minus 4, they're making 4% here. Okay, and this is like, you're not actually getting 4% in most banks. This is a very high number. Home remodel, 9 minus 4, they're making 5%. Okay, 12 minus 4, they're making 8%. But here's the difference is they're making that on your money. They're not putting their money at risk. They're putting your money at risk, right? So banks on average make between 400 to 1,300% on the money you leave there. This is from Bauer Financial. This is a third-party group that studies banks. Okay, on average, it's proven that they make 400 to 1,300% on money you leave there. Now that brings up two questions for me. Why would I give the money to them? Why don't I just go make the 400 to 1,300%? Right? And here's why. Financial literacy. They know how to. That's why we're here. We teach you. You get the financial literacy so you know how to do it. That's the only difference is they know how to go do this. They know the system, so they go do it. The second question I have, how the hell are banks failing when they're making 400 to 1,300% of my money? There's no reason in the world a bank should ever fail. That makes zero sense, but somehow they're failing. Silicon Valley Bank was making 400 to 1,300% on their deposits and somehow still failed, right? So that just shows you that the system is risky. Even with the money they're making, like I don't want to risk that. So A, bypass the middleman, go make the money yourself. And B, like they're risking it. Somehow they still lose. And the reason they lose typically comes down to greed, right? The same reason why they would wire themselves bonuses 2 hours before they fail, greed. There's not another answer to that question, right? So here's how this is going to work. Like, which would you rather be? We don't want to just be a depositor, right? We want to look at how do we be the banker, and how do we be the borrower, and how do we be the shareholder ideally. So with the life insurance policy, it's called the sacred account. When you deposit money, they're going to typically pay you a guaranteed interest rate of 1 to 3%. Okay, that's on your deposit. You're now allowed to borrow against that deposit. Okay, you're going to borrow against that deposit. You're going to pay interest on it, right? And then you're going to be able to invest that money or loan it out. So you're the bank, you're borrowing against the deposit. You're then going to also be the borrower, right? The bank makes the difference between what he borrows the money for, which is typically going to be, like maybe on your loan value, your shareholder, you're going to make some money here too, but on your loans, you're typically going to pay about a 1 to 3% cost, right? And so you're going to look at this and say, well, I'm making 1 to 3%, I'm paying 1 to 3%. How does that make sense? Hold on a second and I'll get there, okay? So you're the bank, right? You're borrowing. Here's your cost of borrowing. Here's what your deposits make while you borrow. And then you're going to take that money that you borrowed and you're going to loan it to yourself and you're going to invest it. When you invest it, you're going to make 8 to 12% by doing smart investments. Okay. And so you're making 8 to 12%. Your cost is 1 to 3. So just like the bank, you're making that spread. And then the other factor is, I mentioned with the life insurance, you become an owner in the insurance company. So when you pay the interest, then you pay your premiums and the company does well, it makes profits and they pay you dividends. Okay. So you're earning an additional, typically 2 to 3% in dividends. Okay, so you're making this, you're making this, and you're making this, and your cost is this, right? So on average, between interest and dividends, what's actually been like historically like accurate and kind of expected is between what you're making here, this 1 to 3% on this, and the dividend, you can expect that you're going to be growing at about 3 to 5%. Like I said, 3 to 5% tax-free. So if I'm making 3 to 5%, being the banker and the shareholder, right? And I'm paying 1 to 3% interest, my deposits are earning more than I'm paying in interest. So I'm the depositor and I'm the banker and I'm the shareholder. Now that's where I get this 3 to 5% number. I'm making that spread right there. That's my profit. Now I'm taking the money I've borrowed and I'm loaning it to myself and I'm going to go invest that. I'm going to do things like real estate or maybe pay off my debts, right? And this is where I make 8 to 12%. So I'm making the 3 to 5, I'm making the 8 to 12, and then my cost of this is 1 to 3. I'm playing the same game the banks have played here, right? And this is a 200-year-old concept. So this is not a brand new thing. Like those of you that are like, like, oh, I want to go do the, the cryptos and the Apple savings accounts. Why would you violate something that's been around for 200 years that still works? At no point did this ever stop working. There's no incentive for us to know about it. Right? Think about this. You don't pay taxes when you put money into this account. So do you think the IRS wants you to know about using this? Okay, you don't have to use a bank ever again if you use this account. Do you think that the banks want you to know about that? No, right? You don't have to use Wall Street ever again because you're investing yourself. Do you think that Wall Street wants you to know about that? No. So there's really not financial incentive for any of the companies that market to us about financial products and services for us to know about this account. But it's been around for 200 years. And here's the kicker. I'm gonna give you this before we move on. Do you know who the #1 owner and purchaser is of this exact kind of life insurance? Okay. If you know the answer, don't post it yet, right? But I want you to think about who uses this kind of life insurance more than anyone. Okay, and I'll reveal that in a little bit, but I want to move on to our next part of the slide here. Okay, so that's how you become the bank using the life insurance, using the sacred account. So here's what it does. You deposit funds into the account. You have access to 70 to 90% of what you deposited immediately. So if I put in 100 grand, I'm gonna have access to that 100 grand, 70 to 90% of it from day one. My entire 100,000 is gonna be growing at 3 to 5% per year on average, while I have the access to borrow against it. So remember we said we're the depositor and we're the banker. So I can borrow against that deposit, my deposits will still grow. So you can borrow against available funds and you can use them while your money still earns 3 to 5% like it never left. My cost to borrow is 1 to 3%, meaning you're making profit on your earning rate minus your loan interest rate to borrow your own money. And then I use the borrow funds to pay off debt, make large purchases or invest, and then I pay myself back at my own pace on my own schedule. right? Because I'm the depositor, I'm the banker, I'm the borrower, and I'm the shareholder, right? And here's kind of how this works, right? So if I were to sketch this out, let's just use simple numbers. I put $1 into it, right? So I put $1 into it. This dollar is going to grow at 3 to 5% per year, have all the protections we mentioned for the rest of my life. Okay. Now in 10 years, because of the 3 to 5%, my dollar will be worth $1.50. And that's if I do nothing with it at all. On average, I can borrow about 80 cents off of that dollar, right? We said 70 to 90. So the middle ground of that is 80. When I borrow it, I will pay, if I do this correctly, about 1 to 3% interest costs. So my cost is 1 to 3. My actual earning rate's 3 to 5. So we can see I'm earning more than I cost. Now I take this 80 cents I've borrowed and I go and I pay off debt or I invest and I earn 8 to 12% by doing that. The money that I'm earning, I use to pay my bank back. That's the system. That's it. It's that simple. So my question is, how many times would you want to deposit money? How many times would you want to borrow against the money as the banker? And how many times would you want to invest and repay your bank over the next 10 years? And if you really get this concept, the answer is as many times as possible, just like the bank does. They want more deposits. They want to borrow against those deposits more. They want to do more investing and grow their wealth. But instead, you're able to do this for yourself now. And here's the beautiful thing, guys. Again, this isn't new. This has been around for 200 years. Okay, so I'm going to show you really quick. My next slide here is how to get all the money back for every car you'll ever buy, drive, and own. Okay, we talked about, how do we, use the bank and the savings account and the loan. Well, I'm going to show you how would you use life insurance for that instead. Rather than depositing $25,000 in the bank, leaving it there, and then borrowing money from them at 6% for your car loan, I want to show you how you make money on your cars using the life insurance. So here's what we're going to look at here. So we have a couple of different columns I'm going to go over with you. This first one is premiums. Okay, so those are our deposits. So this third column over you're going to see is called deposits, right? So the deposits, those are our premiums, right? I'm just going to draw here for you guys so you can see what I'm going over here each time. Next one is age, which doesn't matter. That's this one. You can really do this at any age. We also have the death benefit. And those are the main things we're going to look at. Obviously, the years on the policy, right? So what we're looking at on this is we have an individual who is going to use the sacred account. They're going to put money into it. And in year one, they're putting in $10,000. Okay. Now, in $10,000, they're going to have available about $5,873. Right. So we went really conservative. That's actually a very low amount to have available in cash value. Like I said, we can get 70 to 90% of it in year one. I went lowball. I was like, let's show worst case possible scenario on this. Okay. So they put in 10 grand, they can borrow 5873. Right. And so what they've done here is they continue depositing in year 2, year 3. Right. And so you can see in year 3, they take a loan out against their policy for 25,000. Right. So what did they put in? They put in 30,000. They take a loan out for 25,000. They still have 4,204 left. Right. And so they now start making themselves a car payment back of $500 a month. Right. $6,000 a year. Yeah, that's about $500 a month. So they're making a car payment back to themselves for $500 a month. Okay. They do this over the next, period of time here. This is the period of 7 years. Between premiums and loan repayments, they've paid 100,000. So they deposited money, right? They deposited 70, and then they also did loan repayments of 30,000. Okay, their cash value growth is 67,881. Right, so that's what they've got available that they can borrow against. Okay, year 8, they put in no more money, right? So they've only put in money for the first 7 years, which we wouldn't do. I'd recommend you do this for your entire life because it's like, why would you ever put money elsewhere if you've got your own bank? But let's just say they did this for 7 years only. Okay, so they stop at year 7. Year 8, they borrow another 25,000 for a second car. So they still have the first car. Now they borrowed money for the second car. Right? They're not putting anything else into the policy and they're just maintaining that same $6,000 per year loan repayment. Okay. So at the end of this, by year 12, total premiums and loans repaid during this period, years 8 through 12, is $30,000. Cash value growth, they've grown another 23,000. Right? By year 7, right, they had 67. Now they've got 91. Okay. Now, year 13, they take out another $25,000 for another new car. As you can see, the trend every 5 years or so, they're buying a new car, right? So they paid off the loan, they bought another car, they repay their loans back at $6,000, right? Cash value growth is another $32,000. Okay, premium loan interest paid $30,000, right? And then they do that again here in this year, right? And what ends up happening on this is you can see, let me just zoom in a bit. It looks like my screen is cutting it off. Let me stop the share here and zoom this out. Gotta love technology sometimes. Exit full screen. Okay, so let me just pull up the slide deck itself, so that way you guys can see what we're talking about on the numbers here. Okay, so at the end of this, their cash value over the next 5 years has grown by $43,762. They made loan repayments of $30,000. So I want you to look at, you have at this point 4 paid off cars and $167,000 in cash value and $855,000 of tax-free money in your death benefit, and you only put in 70 grand of your own money. Okay, this is actual numbers. This is actually how this works, right? Like if you went to a bank and you took out 4 car loans and you paid them principal and interest over the next, what is this, the next 30 years, 22 years of your life, you would not walk out with, 167 grand, right? And 4 paid off cars. So this really is like, the way that you would go about doing this. This is a phenomenal system. Okay, so on to the next part. Oh, now the slide is back to normal. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So guys, basically like what we're looking at here is, the first 7 years, we put in 100,000, we took out 25,000, we've got 75,000 left. We've got about 91 cents on the dollar, right? There's 3 rules we follow: Rule 1, Rule 2, Rule 3. And I'll go over what those rules are in a second, right? After that, we never put money in again. Okay, we have 23,000 in the cash value account. Like we can see, we made money on this deal, right? The reason why we made money on this deal is we followed these 3 rules. Rule number 1 is you always pay yourself first. Okay, a bank doesn't have money till it has a deposit. You need, if you're going to be your own bank, you are the depositor. Your job is to deposit as much income as possible into your bank. Second is you pay yourself back with interest. If you're a bank, you do what banks do. You charge loans. So if you loan money to yourself, you always pay yourself back with interest. Right? Rule number 3, we recycle and recapture the money. So by doing that, we put money into the bank, we borrow against it. We then use that for the car. We take what we would have made on a car payment to another bank. Instead, we pay it back to ours. We're recycling and recapturing that money. Right? So I showed you how to do this with a car. What else could we do this with? Right? So this is with debt. So we could do this with debt. So this is an actual real case. We have a client that we're using for this presentation, and we'll leave him nameless, but his total debt was $478,744. Okay, he was making almost $6,000 a month in payments. That's almost 70 grand a year. He was going to be in debt for 19 years. Okay, and so you can see the balances. What was he owing? What were his monthly payments? So we have some credit cards. We have a private loan. We have, a West Marine loan. This is like a boat. We've got a condo. We've got a house, right? So these are all the things that he had going, and here's the interest rates, and here's how many payments were left. And so if he would have done this system with the banks, he would have been in debt for 19 years. He would have paid tremendous amounts of interest. So instead, he used the Sacred account. Okay, so he set up the Sacred account. In year 1, he deposited 25K. He had cash value available of about 15,000, and he was able to pay off these 2 debts. Okay, he was able to pay off Discover Card and loans, right? So he has now reduced his monthly payment. He was paying $57.77 a month. Now he's paying $53.29 a month. He's freed up $448 a month. Now, if we're following these 3 rules, we did the deposit. We put 25,000 in. Okay, we borrowed the 14,000 out. We paid off the debt. But now he's repaying himself with interest. This 448, he's not sticking that in his Wells Fargo bank account. He's not going to keep that money. He's going to instead pay himself back on his own bank, his own loan. Okay. The next year, he deposits another 25,000. Now he's got 16,000 available. He basically pays off these next 3 loans. Okay. He's already making payments back to himself. He's freed up, total cash at 21,000 so far. And he's also freed up another 1,917 total per month in payments. Like on the first one, we said it was 448. He just paid off these debts. Now he's freed up another 1,917 total. Okay, so 448 plus these three, there we go. So he's now paying himself back at 1,917. So again, our conditioning and training is I freed up 1,917. Oh, I can go spend that. Or I should go put that in my savings account. No, no, no. You own your own bank now. So this 1,917 that you used to pay to Nordstrom, you used to pay to Wells Fargo, you used to pay on a private loan, you're going to pay that back to your own bank instead. Okay, we've only got a couple of debts left. So the next year he drops in another 25,000. He's got 25,541 available. He's paid in 23,004 so far in payments. That's what he's freed up on paying his loans back so far. And so he's got enough now to pay off these next two debts. Okay, total cash between loan repayments and deposits, he's got 48,454. Right, so I want to make sure you guys get this. He deposited 25,000. Okay, he's got 25,541 in cash. That's because his money still grew even though he was using it. He's been repaying his loans. That's another 23,000. So the total money that he has available in his bank right now, that's where we get that 48,545. And he borrows the 48,545. He pays off the BMW. He pays off West Marine. He's now freed up 3677 a month in payments. Right? So far, that's what we've done so far. So he's playing the game of being a banker and he's trying to play the long game because that's how you build wealth. It's not a quick thing. But let me ask you this. Was it quicker for him to pay all this off basically in 3 years versus 19? Like we look at this and we're like 3 years, like it's such a long time. Okay, but 19 was the alternative. Okay, year one, we put in 25, we took out 14K. Year two, we put in 25, we took out 16K. Year three, we put in 25, we took out 25K. Right? How much did we put in? We put in $25 or $75,000. We took out 55,000 in loans. Okay, so you would think how much is still left in the policy, right? What's the math here? We put in 75, we borrowed out 55. Again, conventional thinking. This is the math we're taught. Well, we put in 75, we pulled out 55. We should have $20,000 left, right? We actually have a lot more. He's got 70,000 left, not 20,000. And the reason again is he's been repaying himself and he's still been growing on his money while he used it this whole time. So he's still got the condo and the house left, right? And so we look at, okay, he pays off the condo. He borrows against that. He waits another year. He pays off the condo and that frees him up. He's now saving $45.56 a month, paying that back into his policy loan, right? And then next he can pay off the house, right? So we've basically in a period of 6 or 7 years paid off almost $500,000 in debt, right? We freed up 6,000 almost a month in payments, and he's still got total cash in his policy of 97,588. Okay, so this is something, and this one is a bit blurry. We're going to get this fixed, I think, but this is something that all of our clients get. So if you get a sacred account, we actually will build you a debt map. Okay, the exact thing we just went over. We'll show you, here's what you have, here's what you need to do. And here's part of it is you then get the strategy of working with us on it. You're going to put this much into your account. Here's the loan. You should pull it out at this point. You should pay it off. Make sure you do your repayment. Our mapping team walks through that whole process with you. Right? So if he continued to pay the homes back, we paid the homes off, right? So let's say that he continued to pay the homes back as he promised. Okay, the condo, he would have paid in principal and interest $220,528 back to the bank. Okay, the house, $1,221 a month, 224 months left on it. That's $273,439 he would have paid back to the bank. Okay, that's $493,000 he would have paid in interest and principal that he doesn't have to anymore. That's not even including all the other debts, guys. Like we said, his total debt was $493. If he would have paid the house and the condo as agreed, then he would have actually doubled that between principal and interest on those. Right? So instead, what he did is he's got these growing in his policy. He's paying it back to himself. So instead, he's going to have $749,611 because he's taking all the money he would have paid to the bank, he would have paid interest on, and paying that back to his sacred account. And that money is growing for him. At the end of this period, at a 4% interest rate on his sacred account, he would have $749,611. So let me ask you this. Would you rather pay $493 or have $749? And that's the difference between using your bank and someone else's. Okay, you can also do this with investing, right? So like we talked about paying off debt, we talked about financing a vehicle. Let's say you're an investor. Let's talk about that really quick. So you deposit 100,000 into your account as a lump sum. This money is now growing. Ted, in this example, can borrow 90,000 against what he deposited. So he borrows the 90,000 to invest in a private real estate investment that's going to pay him 12% for 5 years. Okay, 12% interest on 90,000 pays him $900 a month in income. He's going to take that 900 a month, pay himself back. His 100,000 is still growing at 3 to 5% per year, tax-free over the long haul. After 5 years, his 100,000 has grown to 122.10. Okay, that's the 3 to 5% per year. He has earned 54,000 from interest income and passive income from his investment. Okay, his cost of interest was $9,457, and he now has a net profit of 66,643. That's how much Ted made on his 100 grand by using the Sacred account. If Ted did not use his Sacred account and he just paid cash for the real estate, Ted would have only made a $60,000 profit, right? How many more real estate deals do you think Ted would want to do with his Sacred account instead of paying cash? And what do you think this turns into over the long haul if you do this for 20, 30 years? We just showed you 5 years here. And we didn't even talk about today the death benefit that's tax-free. You don't ever have to actually repay the loans. Your cash value grows tax-free. Policies are exempt from judgments and liens in most states. Like, that's all just icing on the cake. Okay. Now, here's the reality, guys. One of two things is going to happen to all of us. So we're either going to live or we're going to die, right? So I want you to ask yourself, if I live, am I better off with this concept or without this concept? Being my own bank and doing all the things we talked about today. Okay, if I die, am I better off with the concept or without the concept? If I die and I have the Sacred account, my family or my legacy, they're going to get a tax-free death benefit that's more than I actually had. Right? They're better off than they were. If I live, I'm better off than I was. So this actually, like, no matter what, we're all going to live, we're all going to die. This covers you in both scenarios. And there's not another financial tool out there that does that. This is guaranteed. You're either going to live or you're going to die, and you're better off in both situations with the Sacred account. Okay. So now that you know this, everyone should know about it too. I want you to think about how many people do you know that would benefit from learning about the Sacred account? Right? You're probably one of them. If you don't have one, you should be thinking about opening one right now. Okay. If you have one, you should be thinking about opening up another one right now. Right? But I want you to think about your friends, your family, your coworkers. How many of them are currently putting money into the banking system and they're being taken advantage of? And they don't know that they can become their own bank, and all the stuff we talked about today, they wouldn't find out unless someone tells them. And we know that the banks aren't going to tell them, right? They don't have incentive to. We know that the IRS is not going to tell them. We know that Wall Street's not going to tell them. And so who's going to tell them? People who know. And you're now someone who knows. And so you have the responsibility today of telling as many people as you can about this concept, because this can change their life. It's proven to. It's 200 years of track record. Right? We're not talking about some experimental thing that was just developed. We're talking about something that predates the IRS. Right? They've been around longer than our Federal Reserve banking system has been. Right? And we're going to give you a quote today from Warren Buffett. If poor people would just do what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. Right? It's not hard. Like, you find someone successful and copy them. Right? And so, here's the reality is, I asked this question earlier. The banks are actually the #1 owner and purchaser of high cash value whole life insurance on the planet. This is from bankingregdata.com. Right? These are just the top 10 banks. Okay. The top 10 banks, they have tier 1 capital, just of the top 10, $82.7 billion in cash value life insurance. Okay. $87.2 billion or $82.7 billion. That's just the top 10. Okay. This is from 2018. So the very place that you're putting your money, and they're doing the fractional reserve banking system, and they're borrowing against your deposits, when they get their profit, they're putting it in the life insurance I'm telling you about today. Guys, why give them the money? Like, why give them the opportunity? You can borrow against your deposits. You can invest your deposits. You can finance your cars. You can, pay off your own debt. You can do the investing. You can take your profits and put it in the exact place they're going to. Who else uses this? So the largest banks in the United States, Joe Biden owns 6 of them. JCPenney, Walt Disney, Ray Kroc Foster Farm, Stanford University, John Rockefeller, Senator John McCain, Pampered Chef, Waka Flocka Flame, Teddy Roosevelt even had one of these, right? So back to Warren's quote, if poor people would just do what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. JP Morgan Chase Bank is one of the most profitable corporations in the world. They're number one on the list. Number one on the list with $11.2 billion in cash value. Right? They have the most tier one capital and they've got 11.2 billion of it in cash value. In 2020, when we were all locked in our homes, JP Morgan had their most profitable fourth quarter ever. In a pandemic, when there was a financial crisis happening and a health crisis and a political crisis, they had their most profitable fourth quarter ever when we were being fed $1,200 subsidy checks to stay afloat. Right? Like this is the result of what's happening. Like, you don't have to let them keep winning with your money. The reason they were most profitable is because they had your money to do it with. Right? And I'm telling you today, you can have your own money to do it with. So the problem in America isn't so much what we don't know. It's what people think that they know that just ain't so. That's a quote from Will Rogers. And so I want to challenge you today to change your thinking on this. Right? Like, if you've been putting money in a bank, that's not something that you don't know. It's you think you know it and you don't. Right? And so nothing changes till we change. You've got new information today, and you've got the opportunity right now to turn the corner with your finances and become your own bank and start to take charge and be at cause over your future rather than leaving it up to someone else that honestly doesn't give a crap about you. Right? SVB goes under hours before they paid themselves bonuses. They didn't repay their depositors. They paid themselves bonuses. That's just how much they care about you. 2008, the banks not only happened with the financial crisis, they caused the financial crisis. They got bailed out with your taxpayer money and used it to pay themselves bonuses. By not setting up a sacred account, there's not a neutral decision here. You're either furthering what's happening with the banks or you're helping put an end to it. And by setting up a sacred account, you're putting your foot down and saying, nope, I'm done. I'm not going to flow power to the system anymore. I'm not going to give them my money. I'm not going to continue furthering what they stand for so they can take advantage of people. I'm going to become my own bank. Okay, and that's really what this is about. So why don't more people know about this? Well, the reality is millions of Americans do. The top 1% have been using this for a very long time. The top 1% in America is about 3 million people. That's not a small number. Millions of people are using this. Okay, banks don't make money when you use this. We talked about that. Wall Street doesn't either. The IRS doesn't. So there's no reason why you should know about this. Now, it's not about how many people know about this. It's about which ones. And the ones I just showed you are the people you currently give your money to. Okay, some of the wealthiest individuals. I'm in Orlando right now, Disney World. Okay, Walt Disney used this exact concept to start the first amusement park, Disneyland. Right? So why is this better? Like, your alternatives here are three things. You can keep giving your money to the bank. They're going to pay you minimal interest and put your money at risk. Your other option is retirement accounts. There's volatility. You can't touch the money till you're 60. You've got management fees of about 4 or 5% a year when you add it all up. And those eat away at your performance, or you can put it in cash and keep losing 7, 8, or 9% per year to inflation. Those are your three options, right? Now, with us, we've got 2 different accounts, and I don't want to get into this with you today on the pricing. If you're interested in setting up an account, which one do you pick? How is it designed? How much should you put into it? Set up a call with Brianna. Okay, Brianna will give you the details. She'll get you everything, that you need to make a decision on how do you fund your first bank. But I want you to realize that you're not going to do just one of these. The goal is we help you expand and grow. And as you grow and you pay off debt and you save more and your income goes up, you can start more of them. Okay, so how do you get started with this? First thing is to do a call with Brianna, right? You'll sign up. You'll do a welcome call with our team. We'll get you onboarded. We'll get your application process started. Okay. From there, you're going to go through some training with us. Watch the training with our Money Multiplier team. You'll go through the medical and financial underwriting review for approval. That can take some time, and then you'll review and sign your account. And at that point, we'll start working with you on how do you become your own bank, right? You're approved, we fund it, you can begin using it, right? So that's what I wanted to give you guys today. And really the focus on this here is helping you become your own bank, right? So if you're a client and you're using this concept, and you don't know how, you're wanting more help, reach out to us. Okay, if you're a prospect and you're like, okay, I'm interested in this, I think this might be a fit. Get the book, set up a call with Brianna, right? So what I'm going to do is I want to just check the chat for questions before we wrap up today. And if you have any questions, throw those in the chat. Good to see everyone on this afternoon. So we have a question. What is Money Multiplier? So Money Multiplier, they're a partner of Wealth Dynamics. So what they do is they help with the application and underwriting process. So when you work with us, you sign up with us, they're kind of our fulfillment team. You'll do your call with the Money Multiplier. They're going to help with all of the legwork and the application and all the paperwork to get you approved. And they're experts in that field, right? So, if you think about it like a restaurant, we're going to bring you in, see you at the table, serve you, and then we have chefs. And they're kind of our chefs for the Sacred Account, right? So they're going to help us design it and get that built out for you, and then help work through that process with you. Money Multiplier. So they're not an insurance company. The insurance companies are the Guardians, Lafayette Life, One America. Money Multiplier is just a servicing company. They just provide fulfillment. Yeah, let me see if we have any other questions here. Crystal said the slides are so good. Thank you. Thank you. We definitely want to give a lot of education, and the slides do that. Lauren said sacred accounts are brilliant. I wish I'd known about this years ago. I was talking to someone actually on that point, Lawrence. I was talking to someone yesterday, and I was telling him, I was like, I wish I knew this earlier. He's like, dude, you learned this when you were like in your 20s. Like, what do you wish you knew this when you were a 12-year-old? And I told him, yeah. So my godson Sammy is 11. We're doing a sacred account with them. Like, I wish when I was 11, someone had actually taught me this, because I would have been able to figure out the bank thing. Oh, you put your money in a bank and then you put it there, they borrow against it and then loan to other people and they make money on it. I would have figured that out. And instead I was taught to put my money in a piggy bank. And, I started my first savings account when I was 15, 16 years old. I could have been doing this whole time. Someone here says, I have some questions I would like to ask. So drop them in the chat if you have questions. Someone says you can put money in investments, but you can lose with investments. So that's the thing. So investments do have risk, right? So that doesn't mean don't invest. It means understand the risks, right? It's kind of like saying, they say to eat food, but eating food makes you fat. No, eating too much food makes you fat. So, investing in risky things gives you risk. If you're not investing in risky things and you've got a good level of understanding, you don't lose. I've lost money in investments, and the number one thing that made me lose was lack of knowledge and lack of control. So when we're investing, for me, I only invest in things that I understand and that I have a lot of control over. And that's how I avoid losing. Just like when I'm eating, I avoid overeating. I have control over how much I'm going to eat so that I don't, gain too much weight and get fat and that type of thing. So similar to that. Do you not understand why a death benefit innocent also cannot cash his policy in ever? I'm not sure that question. I do not understand why death benefit. I do not understand also you cannot cash this policy in ever. So the death benefit, it is life insurance. So you're going to have a death benefit. That's just part of it. Now, if you die without a life insurance policy, you don't have a death benefit. So the death benefit's better. You'd rather have your family have more money when you die than less money. And then also, why would you want to cash a policy in if you've got your own banking system, right? It's like, I have my own bank that's profitable. I want to go shut the branch down. It wouldn't make sense to do that. So you can cash them in. I wouldn't recommend it, but you certainly can. But I just think it would be a bad idea. Kristen asked, is there a place to get this recording? This will be on our YouTube channel. Social media has escalated. Thanks, Lawrence. Yeah, so that's, I've got to give credit. That's Alex Larone. That's Kevin Esteleo, who's on the call today. That's Robert Hoy. That's my team, guys. And I'm really proud of my team. They've taken our company a long way. And so our social media is one of those things that we've really been able to improve the quality of. Someone asks, how does Jerry profit from setting up accounts and his educational process? So I do run a business, and businesses do make profits. I'm a for-profit company. So when we sell education, we sell education. And so we charge a fee for that, just like you would pay a tuition to go to school. We charge a cost for education. And then we get paid a referral fee, a servicing fee, a commission, whatever you want to call it, by the insurance companies we work with to service your account. So that's how we make money. And so that is something we do. We make money to do these. And so that's something where you've got to look at, okay, cool, I'm paying for a service. What's the exchange? Does it make sense for me? And am I making more money than it costs? So those are the main things to know about. Someone asks, we don't cash out our own money from our life insurance, correct? Instead, we take out and pay it back, correct? Yep, so that's the point, is you want to borrow against the policy, not cash out the policy. Right, by borrowing, the money still grows, you avoid taxes. Anytime you cash out an investment that's making money, you've lost the investment, it's not going to grow anymore. And you also pay taxes on your gain. So by taking loans, you can't get taxed and the growing never stops. So with this being a bank, does that mean we have our own bank, or is it a separate account from our actual bank that we deposit money into? So it's the life insurance. So your own bank is the life insurance. It's not an actual physical bank, right? You're putting money into the policy and you're practicing the banking concept with it. So you deposit money into that account and then you actually take loans against that same account. Very good questions. If we have saved or invest money, how long can it take for us to invest in real estate? Great question. So it kind of depends on the deal, right? So how much are you putting into it? How much are you saving? How is your policy designed? How much do you need to do the deal, right? So most real estate, you're going to need at a minimum, if you're doing like single family turnkey real estate, minimum is like 30 grand, 20, 30 grand to get into it. So then it's just a matter of, I've got my bank set up, how quickly can I get the money there for my down payment? If you're going higher end and paying cash, you probably need closer to 150 or 200. If you're doing like seller finance, like Equity and Help is a company we work with that does seller finance real estate, there you need about 150 to 200 as well. So, depending on how quickly you can get there, right? And that's kind of the purpose of this, is we set up the account, then you want to deposit as much money as possible into it. Okay, great questions. Chris asks, what are the investments that you're making 8 to 12% on? So we won't go over investments today, but they are real estate related. So if you're interested in that, Chris, set up a call with Brianna, and then she can help you get more info on that. Another question, when it comes to real estate, is it better to save for fix and flip or become a landlord? Neither. So I would do neither of those. So fix and flip is not investing, it's speculating. It's a construction job and a realtor job. So I wouldn't do those types of investments, quote unquote. I want to invest in things that don't require my time, right? So I don't want to invest in something where I have to sell the asset to make the profit. I want passive income. Now, on the flip side, I wouldn't be a landlord either. That's also not passive. So that's where I would do something called either turnkey real estate, meaning it's a rental property, but you've fully outsourced the management. You're not going to collect the rent and fix the toilets and deal with the tenants. Right. So I'd do that, or I would do seller finance real estate. Seller finance real estate is where I'm the bank. It's more like a mortgage that I'm receiving. The person living there, they're not a tenant. They're actually just like if you had a mortgage, they're responsible for the house, the payments, the everything. Right. You don't fix anything at that point. There's no need for management. So those are the two ways I like to go about that. We have a question. What would be the best way to get a car? I'm only 18. So I would get with Brianna on this, set up a call with Brianna, let her know like, hey, I want to save up for a car. I want to use the Sacred account. And she'll help you put together a policy that will, basically get you on track for that. Right. Being 18 and starting that, perfect age. Like that's great. That's when I started in the financial world too. So I love that you're that young and looking to do these things. And Brianna can definitely help with that. Okay, I think that is all the questions I see. So guys, one more time, if you did not grab a copy of the book here, I want to offer you a free copy still. So if you go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo. You can get a copy of the book there, right? That's free. You cover the shipping. We'll send it out to you. And that's where you can learn more about how to achieve greater financial freedom in life. If you're interested in learning more about the Sacred Account, set up a call with Brianna, right? And so when I log off the meeting, I'm going to leave it live, and I'm going to leave Brianna in charge of it so that she can, connect with you, set up appointments, those types of things. Someone's asking, would I do a mortgage deal instead of a tenant? So it depends. Definitely set up a call with Bree. The name here says it is Bree, but I know this is not Bree. So whoever this is, set up a call with Brianna, and she'll walk you through like where you should start and what route you should go on, right? Both of them are good. If I do seller finance where it's more like a mortgage, that's a great option. Doing the turnkey rental is also a great option. And so it just is like, do I want pizza or burgers for dinner? Well, which one are you in the mood for? What fits what you're looking for? And she can kind of go through and help you determine what meets your needs best, and basically how you can get there as well. So, guys, I think that's all the questions I see here. One final thing I want to go over is, if you're watching this, I'm looking for people who want to join what we're doing, right? If you watch this today and you're like me, when I first learned about this, guys, I was mad. This fired me up when I saw what banks are doing to people, and I saw, the average American individual is working their hardest. They're trying to make good decisions. They're trying to do the right thing, and they're putting money into a system that in return does this to them. Puts their money at risk, pays them nothing, loses it, gets bailed out, like all this stuff. And there's actually an option where they can avoid the whole thing. I felt responsible to share it, right? So if you're a client, whether you're a client or not, you're like, this got me fired up today. Like, I want to go help. I want to invite you to A, become a client if you aren't one, and then B, become an ambassador on our team. Go through the process of learning this so you can share it with other people, get licensed, and we'll teach you how to not only help the people in your network that you care about, but also how to make great income from a business in order to do this, right? So if you're interested, let us know on that. And then for sure, get set up with Brianna for the free book. So let me just put that in the chat for everyone. So someone is asking, what's the link for the book? So you can go to Jerry Fetta. Oh, Bree got it already. Awesome. Thank you, Bree. So you can get the book at that link. Otherwise, guys, that's all we got for today. Thank you for watching. Make sure that you like the video if you're on social media. Share this with someone, and I'll see you guys again next Saturday at 1 p.m.